Excuse me. All right, Shalom. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Hakwadash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect that sat here labored in all truth and sincerity to you. I say Shalom. This is brother Amon Ariel from the GMS Charlotte camp, coming back with another Lord willing edifying lesson to feed the elect of the nation of Israel. And pretty much in the lesson, as you see the title, incredulity is high, and E wants you to stay black and die. Okay, because what we're starting to see increasing trend of is a lot of our own people, you know, starting to speak out against the Israelites, man. All right, that's become like a hot topic for these jakes to, downplay and disregard and try to, raise arguments on why, so-called Black, Latino, Native Americans are not Israelites. Okay, and we know that ultimately, this is all, the doing of the accuser of our brethren, the so-called, white man, Esau Edom. Okay, and he's recruiting these jakes to do these things and say these things, all right, for the purpose of him trying to push that doubt onto our people to pretty much make them not believe in the truth. Okay, now I want to open this lesson up, just playing a little bit of this video that popped up over the weekend dealing with this dude, Judge Joe Brown. All right, and dealing with this guy and Jakes like him. They speak a lot of truth, so to say, calling certain things out. I know he was one of the main ones that was speaking out against Kamala Harris and exposing her for the hoax and the fraud that she was. But at the end of the day, these Jakes all have to play their role, because they're all owned by the elites. Okay, they sold out. All right, so here's him, doing his part to try to discredit the Israelites. I just wanted to play a little bit of this incredulity, man, because that's exactly the spirit that's being pushed, right now is a high spirit of incredulity. All right, and before I even play this, let's get that definition of incredulity. I'm gonna go on the free dictionary. All right, this is incredulity. It says a lack of belief, skepticism. It says doubt about the truth of something. Okay, the state of being unsure of something, disbelief, doubt, skepticism, distrust, unbelief. And this is the spirit that Esau Edom is trying to push on Jake, man. All right, another one, it says the refusal or reluctant to believe. And that's the sense that Esau wants to push upon Jake, because Jake is waking up to this knowledge, and Esau, knows that this is the biggest threat that they have against the truth. Okay, so what we're seeing is a lot of backlash and a lot of mudslinging that the media is trying to do to downplay this truth and to pretty much make it to where our people who are either weak in faith or of the unbelief pretty much disregard and turn away from this, man. All right, so real quick, I want to grab this here in Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 3. It says, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. All right, because at the end of the day, as we know that this spirit of unbelief is being pushed amongst Jake, you know, until you Jakes out here that are are new to this thing, all right, that are newly and freshly learning, all right. Esau wants to push this unbelief and spirit on you to make you question and ultimately disregard this truth as being what it is, man. This is your heritage that is being given back unto Yahweh back by Yahweh Shai unto us, man. All right, we are given life again through this word, man. And Esau wants to, pretty much put that light back out. All right. So don't let the unbelief of these people out here sway you from what you know as the truth, man. All right. Because a lot of videos you've been seeing of guys that more than likely was either paid or they ultimately wasn't of the elect. They bugging out. But these videos of why I'm no longer a Hebrew Israelite, people coming against the Hebrew Israelites or they're mentioning them how they used to be one. It's all these things of making the truth look bad, man. All right. And so Judge Joe Brown is just another name added to the mix of unbelieving Jakes, man. All right. So let's play this.
This is Judge Joe Brown. Maybe I'll tell you a whole lot of stuff you never knew. Watch the whole interview here on INeverKnewTV.com. Premium.
You made some comments about black Hebrews, right? Could you delve deeper into that, please?
Look, one of the primary staples of propaganda is to get people to misidentify and identify with mythological entities. And I have nothing against Jews. Hell, one of my agents was a Jew. He was an interesting guy. He was part Puerto Rican and part Chinese and got adopted by a Jewish family. All right. He called himself a mutt. But black folk running around trying to claim they're the original Jews, it's like, why are you doing that? And what is your purpose? And my analysis is they want something to identify with.
And hey, we have identified ourselves as being the real, Jews, the real Israelites, man. Because according to Revelation, 2:9 and Revelation 3:9, all right, it's a people on this planet that are calling themselves Jews but are not, all right, but are the synagogue of Satan. So this wasn't a thing that Jake has been doing. All right, this was a movement through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua that he has done to wake his people up and begin to bring them back into the knowledge of the truth. Because here it is, as he's going to go into, you've had Jake trying to find their identity, but why is it that every nation on the earth has a identity except for so-called black people, man? Okay, because there was a prophecy that was going to happen to make us fall away from our heritage and make us not know who we were, man. Okay, Judge Joe Brown can't tell you why that's the case, man. Okay, this is Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. It says, "And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever." So here it is. All right, he's out the gate, mudslinging, talking about, we're claiming a mythological heritage when all the problems that happen to so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans are all in this book. All the questions that they have, they don't know that the answers are in this book or why we're in this situation. But guys like this dude and others, they will dance around the problems, but never give you the root cause of why these problems persist in you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans' lives, man. These scriptures give us the formula and the answers to what put us in this position, man. Okay, we were prophesied to lose our heritage because of our disobedience from Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. And it was going to be a nation of people that was going to rise up and take our heritage and put it on themselves, man. But as he made mention, all right, Joe Brown, he is in the pocket of the very same people that he is, sticking up for, man. Okay, listen to some more.
You remember some years ago when everybody had to have one of these Oakland Raiders starter jackets? I had a guy in my courtroom who had been stealing Oakland Raiders starter jackets. So I'm talking to him. He's trying to get probation. I said, well, who are the Raiders? I don't know. I said, well, what is that with the eye patch and the bones? Doesn't it have a football helmet on it? Yeah, is that what that is? Yeah, that's a football helmet. He didn't even know his football team. Where's Oakland? He didn't know where Oakland was. But he's identifying with that because he wants to belong. So there was this thing about 35 years ago when everybody wanted an Oakland Raiders starter jacket because you looked like you were part of some group, even if you didn't know it was a football team, even if you did know it was a football team, you couldn't tell us who the quarterback was. Oakland Raiders, where did the Oakland Raiders play? Oh, I don't know. How about Oakland? They didn't know. But this urge to identify, it's like the Nazis did this too. Aryan Supermen. Who are the Aryans? Aryans exist. Technically, they're called Indo-Aryans, I-N-D-O hyphen Aryan. You see them all the time. Kamala Harris was an Indo-Aryan. That's what most Hindu are, Aryans. They're from India. They did have something anciently to do with Germany, but they certainly weren't blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They were dark-skinned, swarthy, dark-haired, dark-eyed. But they came up with a mythological thing so people could identify with them. They moved their origin from the Indus River Valley, which is going into Asia, to the far north in the land of snow and ice. And the same thing's going on. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but don't look at it as all of a sudden now you have some pride. Because psychologically, what you're telling me is you're ashamed of what you really are, so you're trying to figure out something else you can identify with to escape the onus of being what you are. See, I'm black and I'm proud. We worked hard at that because, see, I'm black and I'm proud, can identify with to escape the onus of being what you are.
And that's the thing of what, the so-called white man wants us to, stay as is black. All right. This is why, that term is continuously thrown out to where he's even put that, on us now, man, calling us, black Hebrew Israelites, which there's no such thing as a black Hebrew Israelite, just like there's no such thing as a black person. But these, old head Jakes, these were the main tools that Esau used, in their upbringing, that were like the leaders of our people, and that would pretty much, have the knowledge of where our people will look up to for history. All right. And as he's going to break down the whole where the black, thing came from in the community or whatnot, that's not who we are as a people. So for you to, it's like he's guilt shaming Jake that found out who they really are, because Esau wants you to go back to being black. That's what this whole campaign is really about. All right. He wants you to go back to being black. That's like when you see Vocab Malone and different, Edomites like them come up and they're dealing with us. All right. That's essentially the spirit they're coming in is, why don't you just go back to being black? Why don't you just go back to being Christian? Ultimately, why don't you just go back to being dead? Because when Israel lost who they were, all right, they lost that connection to Yahweh Shemal Shah. They weren't walking in wisdom. All right, they pretty much, were in a dead state, man. Proverbs 21:16 tells us that he that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. So when Jake was in that dead state, Esau, Edom, was able to, profit off of us being, a no people. All right. He was able to, conquer and destroy us off of the guise of us trying to find our identity after we had our stripped from us. And then he gave us a pseudo identity, under these false, these false names, which is really curses, man. Okay. Let's listen to some more.
See, I'm black and I'm proud. We work hard at that because there had been so much in American culture to make black folk ashamed of what they were. We came up with the thing black, no colored, no Negro. You're black. Negro means black. So damn it, just accept. You call white folk white, you can call black folk black, even if they don't look that way, even if white folk are kind of pink or brown, whatever it is. So we went that way, and then somebody came up with Afro-American, and then went back to Black American, and then we went to African American, and then Jesse Jackson in the late 70s seized on that. He didn't invent it, but it is I'm black and I'm proud. And now you have people, instead of saying I'm black and I'm proud, black power, you get, I'm ashamed of what I am. I have to be something else. Like, come on, man, let's get back to the basics.
What's your thought?
And the basics is that, number one, there's no such thing as black. All right, that's a code name that was invented, all right, by the devil through his alphabet groups to identify and pretty much categorize people. Because that's what we're seeing with that term now, as he's addressing so-called Black Hebrews or Black Hebrew Israelites, whatever they want to call us. That's another way for Esau Edom to categorize, us, to make it to where when he's about to roll, okay, he knows exactly who to go after, man. Okay, he's the accuser of our brethren, and through him, all right, he is using these pawns like Judge Joe Brown and all these other, guys to pretty much, help bring forth that categorization. All right, so let's grab that real quick. Revelation 12:10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his Hamashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. And that's exactly what this devil is doing, man. Okay, through his media and different things, he is literally trying to come down, upon Israel, but he needs a ploy. All right, he needs to set up, the perfect way for him to pretty much, find a way after it, because he knows that right now, the spirit of the Lord, all right, is pretty much, having it to where it's not time for us, to be persecuted yet. But as we see the narrative being set, or amongst all these videos starting to come out against the Hebrew Israelites, Esau is setting the stage, man. Okay, so when you look up this word accuser, is categoreo, and it says to accuse before a judge, to make an accusation. And the main reason that this is being done is because you have a lot of Jake waking up to the fact that those people over there in the land of Israel, those Israelis, all right, how they are imposters and they're not the true people of the Lord according to biblical prophecy. Because that's what we bring out, is to show forth that through prophecy, those people don't fit who the true Israelites are. Because here it is, he keeps throwing up that word mythological, but if you want to sit here and talk about, let's go back to the basics. The basic the principle of the matter is this: who are the Israelites, and according to prophecy, what happened to them over the process of time to where we can locate and see who those people are in today's time, because they're still on the earth. Okay, they didn't just fall off the earth, man. All right, Ecclesiastes 4:16 lets us know that there's no end of all the people, but yet those people over there in the land of Israel today can put that name on them, and nobody questions it. And then when you look at all the genocide and the wickedness that they're doing in the earth, nobody bats an eye at that. But because the so-called Black, Latino, Native Americans are waking up over here now, and we're seeing that rising of those small hats being questioned. This is why Esau was in overdrive trying to bring that accusation upon us, man. Okay, because it's going to be a point to where these same people talking against us are going to eventually come against us, man. Okay, so just dealing with this, this guy like Judge Joe Brown, he is one of these old bottles, old famous bottles that Yahweh Shem Shah, all right, is pretty much exposing to be, another pawn, man. Because like I said, we've used, his videos in the past, because like I said, Jake can speak truth, but Jake doesn't have the full truth, man. Okay. And when he goes in on, the corruption that's going on, in the world and Hollywood and amongst, different things, yeah, he's on point. But when it comes to, Bible prophecy and all that, he don't have the truth, man. He don't have the spirit of the Lord to be able to go into this realm, which is why at the end of the day, man, And you gotta leave that stuff to the prophets, man. Hey, Judge Joe Brown is not a prophet. He's not a member of the elect. Okay, because as you heard in the beginning of the video, he pretty much, let it be known that his allegiance is already with the small hats, man. So he came in here already with, a 1 foot, already on the side of the Edomites, man. You know. Now, before I grab this next scripture, I wanted to put this on the screen. All right. Um, Give me 1 second. So one of the brothers from the camp sent this a couple of days ago. So you have this Senator Cory Booker, all right, who is advising APAC in a meeting on how to recruit African Americans to the pro cause, the pro Israel cause, because as you know, we are becoming aware, as I just mentioned, you have a lot of Jakes that's waking up to the wickedness that we see those small hats doing over there, that genocide that they're doing over there to them Palestinians, you know, all the exposure of how these devils are behind these sex trafficking rings, these child trafficking rings, you know, all the things wrong in Hollywood, man, the propaganda and everything. Every problem in the world is starting to be, linked back to these damn small hats, man. So Jake is becoming aware of that, and that's why you had, a couple of years ago dealing with, you know, what's the shit called? The ADL, the face behind that, I think his name was Adam Greenback or whatever. He was going in on, that they have to, take control of the narrative, all right, of this social media, because they're losing the information war, man. And too many young people are becoming aware of the crimes of what Israel was doing in the earth, man. And now the support is pretty much, is losing. Okay. I saw a video, one of the brothers was going in on how pretty much, I wanted to say it was like between 54 to 58% of Americans, especially dealing with Jake, are against Israel and this whole, Israel Palestine war. So people are waking up to these damn devils, man. You know, so this is why, guys like Joe Brown, hey, we're on to you, man. All right, you're nothing more than a pawn that has outlived its purpose. All right, so now they're tired of these old niggas, and they're trying to go into, finding these younger Jakes that have more influence over the minds of these other youth, man. You know, I'm gonna grab these two precepts real quick. This is Matthew chapter 9 and verse 16. It says, "No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill it up, take it from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved." Right? Because hey, these niggas have outlived their purpose, man. Okay, when it comes to this truth, this is a new that new wine that Yahweh Shem Shai has put into the earth, and these I'm black and I'm proud type niggas, man, they can't get it, man. All right, they have pretty much lived their whole life to where they are accustomed and will literally fight for the matrix, man. Okay, they're not willing to give up, being black, being Mexican, being Native American, because they're too ingrained in the system, man. You know, this is why Esau he has noticed that, and this is why he's ultimately having to find a way to reach the youth now. All right, which is what you're going to hear in this video. But I'm going to get one more scripture. This is Genesis 49 and 9. It says, "Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art going up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as a old lion, who shall rouse him up?" Okay, because these old niggas, man, hey, they have stooped down, man. They're washed up. They're okay with America because they were able to live a full life. All right, they saw the so-called progression that Jake was able to make in America. All right, going through child slavery to Jim Crow, all the way up until today's time, to where you see Jake making millions of dollars doing entrepreneurship and all that shit. So these older Jakes, they see nothing wrong with the system, man. They still in that we shall overcome spirit. But look at what our people are doing now. Are we really overcoming anything, man? All right, nothing has really changed for the better for Jake, man. Just because you're able to have money in your pocket and have seats of power in high positions, that doesn't change the overall state of our nation. And this is why when you heard that nigga speak, it's really it was nothing, okay? Because he bashed the truth, and then was pretty much in the mindset of just why can't we just go back to being black? Because black is dead. So Esau wants you to be in the spirit, man. This is why at the end of the day, these young niggas ain't stunting this nigga no more, man. They don't care what somebody like him got to say because he's out of touch with the people now. All right. So this is why you're having, meetings like this, because Amalek is looking for a new way to reach the people because he knows that he is out of touch, man. All right. So let's grab this.
One more question, Gary says, Gary is forward. This is a lot of pressure the last time. You spoke a lot about hope, and obviously you are someone who is very pro-Israel. We also heard beautiful remarks about some of the students on traditionally black colleges, leadership, and things. But could you give us your own evaluation of the African American leadership in the United States, and what is their feeling about Israel? And because oftentimes locally outside New York, we find that there is becoming a greater identification not with the history of Israel and what Israel has become, but the sufferings of the Palestinians without any really understanding of the history of Israel. So, African American leadership,
Black is always going to be, as Jews are, always going to be some of the first to sign out to address the suffering of others.
And this is just another coon, if he's even a coon, because he might be a damn tear, man. But at the end of the day, this just goes to show you that, like I said, they have lost control of the narrative because the people are that's really looking at these things. You saw how they had to regulate TikTok. They did the ban, they brought it back. Now you can't really see videos of what they're doing over there in Gaza, but you still have Instagram and Twitter and other social media platforms that's going into the overall goal of what these devils are trying to do, which is accomplish a genocide of those Palestinians. Which I have to make this statement: we're in no ways for either side, Palestine or Israel, because they're both heathen that don't belong in that land. That is the Israelites. All right, that is our chosen land. Okay, and this is why the Most High has those nations fighting against each other, because neither one of them belong in that land. But the point being, here it is. You heard countless statements from Netanyahu. Even Trump, how they pretty much they want to clear that land out to make a new Israel, to where these small hats can have the Holy Land to themselves, man. But at the end of the day, man, that's not Bible prophecy, okay? Because the scriptures tell you that the Israelites will get back in that land when Yahweh returns and puts us in that land. So how he's over here using Bible scriptures like the one where it talks about, remember what Amalek did, they're justifying genocide by using Bible scriptures. But here it is over here in America, the Israelites, the real Israelites, are using Bible scriptures to prove to you through prophecy that those people over there are imposters. But yet we're looked at as the biggest threat in the world, man. These niggas are getting busted for sex trafficking rings. All right, they're getting busted. Like I said, they're being exposed to be trying to commit genocide. They're planning the whole hostile world takeover. All right, but yet the Hebrew Israelites over here just reading out the Bible, we're the problem. But this goes to show you how much impact this truth is having on these devils, to where they're afraid, man. You know, so this is why at the end of the day, the spirit has these the inside of these meetings coming out, because the Lord wants us to see how scared these damn devils are, to where they're resorting to tactics like this to try to figure out how to combat the Hebrew Israelites, man. All right.
shouldn't be afraid of that. In the Black community, the Jewish community, whatever community. But when it comes to justice for Israel and understanding and suffering within context, we need to be more vigilant than we're being right now. And so within the Black community, and I say this all the time, you ask specifically about Black leadership. First of all, it's exciting like never before, because Obama is a raindrop compared to the storm that's coming of young Black leaders around this country who are phenomenally qualified, phenomenally experienced. You're going to see more Black governors, you're going to see more Black senators. You're going to see critical that you continue to find, not them when Congress people. You find those Black leaders when they're 22-year-olds at Oxford, when they're 24-year-olds as a city council president, and you go to them then and say, "Come to Israel. Let us start showing what this is about." That's what I'm about.
And this is why you see a lot of these damn influencers and people of the entertainment world, these athletes, whatever, people that have influence over these younger jakes. All of a sudden, they're being approached by these devils in whatever form that may be, where they're sending higher ups from the boule. Like an example that comes to mind, you have that streamer, Kai Sinai. All right, this dude blew up out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden you see niggas like Kevin Hart on the streams, these different A-list celebrities, because Amalek is trying to force his way in, and make these jakes part of his of his recruitment campaign to sway the influence back in their favor, man. So you can't be swayed by these people of influence, man, because they're nothing more than pawns. All right, like I said, you'll have some of these niggas speak truth, but at the end of the day, they're still pawns for the elites, man. All right, real quick, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11. It says, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." So we're not taken aback of what we're seeing. All right, because like I said, this video is perfect to show the tactics that they're taking, because they know that they're losing the information war, man. All right, so they will use coons and sellouts, all right, at their beckoning call, because they know the power they have over our people. Okay, like you see right here, this top comment: using Black people or any oppressed group as a sales pitch to a super PAC that advocates for the existence of a racist ethno state shows lack of humanity. He is one of the highest paid Zionists in Congress. So, hey, at the end of the day, man, this devil, all right, whether he's a real devil or a black devil, whatever the case may be, he's in the pocket of these elites, man. All right. So what he's doing is trying to give insight to what they need to do to start getting at these younger jakes, man. Because going back to what I was reading earlier in Genesis 49:9, it says, "Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, as an old lion, who shall rouse him up?" Now, like I said, these old niggas, they're washed up. They're of no influence anymore. These jakes don't give a fuck about the Al Sharptons, the even the newer age old niggas like Jay-Z, Michael Jordan. These young jakes don't care about them. This is why they go after the Kai Cenats, they go after the I Show Speed or whatever his name is, the the new guys, man. All right, the they call it the flavor of the month or whatever you want. I forgot the new term they're using for these jakes now, but they know, because a lot of jakes are waking up. A lot of jakes are in that spirit of, man, fuck these small hats, man, because they see and recognize what's going on, man. So now they got to get the coons to come out and try to, lull you back to sleep, so you can go back to being black. All right, being black and die, man. That's the motto these Edomites want Jake to go back into, man. Okay, so we finish it out.
Key mission of APAC must begin, which is finding future leaders, young leaders now. But
So the point being, yeah, they want to recruit these young Jake. All right, this is why at the end of the day, we're not starstruck by none of these people, because we know all these niggas are sold out, man. All right, so hey, Kanye, Kodak Black, whoever, Kendrick Lamar, all these different dudes that are quote unquote famous but know the truth, we don't trust none of these niggas because they're all sellouts, man. Because they all are in Esau's pocket and are going to be used as influencers to sway you to the beast system, man. All right, to unbelief or the beast system. Because when you look at niggas, just the names I just named, are any of these niggas still pushing? All right, being an Israelite. All right, yeah, Kanye, he blasts the small hats, but is he talking about the 12 tribes of Israel? All right, is he talking about Yahweh Shai, man? Okay, you don't hear none of these people talking about that. All right, you don't even hear them claim Israel no more, man. So this is why at the end of the day, man, these niggas are going to be used as tools for Esau's agenda to eventually come against the truth, man. You know, this is First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26. It says, "For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called, because Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is using, the poor of this world, all right, who the world looks at as foolish, all right, to bring Israel back unto him, man. Because we understand that if he could if he wanted to, but the main thing of why you see most Jakes will come up if he used celebrities, because it'd be off of their status versus off of the sincerity of the teaching of the word. So we know how fickle Jake is, man. All right. If Jake saw, like Apostle Tahar always using an example, if Jake saw Denzel Washington or LeBron James holding post at one of the camps, it'd be a whole block of Jake listening all for the chance just to see or talk to LeBron or Denzel Washington, man. So the Lord ain't dealing with these niggas. These niggas ain't got the juice. They ain't got the spirit of the Lord, man. They can't go into the scriptures and break down the secrets of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. This is why, hey, to hell with these people, man. They're of no use to the Lord, man. Okay, because everybody else that you see going on, outside of the prophets, they ain't got it, man. You know, even the so-called famous in the circumcision, you know, the Nate Satans, the Alazar, aka Pegatron, hey, General Yahan and all these other weirdo camps, man. These niggas ain't got the truth either, man, because they're in the back pocket of Esau as well. All right, they took deals, man. All right, this is why they changed the doctrine up, man. You know, so Amalek is trying to figure out a way how to stifle this word and ultimately to get you to reject being a Hebrew Israelite, man, so that you don't have a covering when he begins to come down upon you. All right. This is why you're starting to see more and more people addressing and talking about the Hebrew Israelites, man, in a negative way. Because number one, they're paid to, and also too, like I said, is to spread that incredulity, man, that unbelief, But if you're of the elect in a sound mind, that's not going to do anything, all right, against you. That's not going to sway you because we know this is the truth, man. You know, I got one more video. All right, let's put this one up. All right, I seen this one from the elder Manatazak Ba. All right, because as you're gonna hear this so-called person, say, because hey, a lot of us don't believe this is a real person. When you watch this video, this looks like AI, man. All right, this looks completely fake. But the thing that's being spoken about in this video is the same type of video that you've been seeing come out on YouTube. All right, people are dissuading themselves from the Hebrew Israelite thing. All right, why I'm no longer a Hebrew Israelite. The Hebrew Israelites is a cult. Whatever bullshit they're saying. All right, and they'll start trying to bring out all these quote unquote facts to try to disprove this being the truth. But at the end of the day, a lot of this shit is paid opposition that's being done as a smear campaign, man. To demonize the word. You know, but at the end of the day, all this is doing is just verifying that we got the truth. Because what other religion are they going after as hard as they're going after the Hebrew Israelites, man? You don't see Christians being persecuted on this level. You don't see Islam being persecuted like this. You don't see Egyptology or none of these other belief systems that Jake has clung to, all right, go through the persecution that we go through because we know this is the truth, all right? So all these scoffers and people coming against us is doing nothing but proving that this is the truth. Real quick, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 8. For we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. So here it is, you devils are trying to discredit the truth, sending guys like Vocab Malone, but at the end of the day, they're not doing anything but helping verify this is the truth. Because it was made mention on one of Vocab Malone's videos. I think it was either his video or one of the brothers that was doing commentary on that nigga, and it was going into how there's a lot of comments that was going into how Vocab he introduced them into the Hebrew Israelite thing, and a lot of people started believing off of that. So here it is, him being in the opposition for the word. He's actually bringing people to the truth. You know, just showing you the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah. So Esau is having to come with all these new tactics to try to make Jake stop believing, man. And this right here is one of them. Listen to this bullshit. As you read the caption, understanding Hebrew Israelites, a personal journey.
This one's gonna ruffle some robes, but let's go. To all the black Israelites saying we are the chosen ones, our lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Let me give you some clarity with facts.
And like I said, if you peep the mannerisms of this so-called person, man, this shit looks fake. This nigga looks fake, man. You look at it's just his head moves. None of his other body moves. You don't see no chest rising or falling because of his breathing. His arms not moving. He don't have no below the neck movement, man. So this just lets you know Esau was even resorting to AI to try to combat the truth, man. You know.
1. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were mythological archetypes. This one's gonna ruffle some robes, but let's go. To all the black Israelites saying we are the chosen ones, our lineage goes back.
And as you keep hearing, those are buzzwords. Black Hebrew Israelites. Just remember that black is a code word. All right, for the FBI, man. All right. We're not fucking black, man. There's no such thing as black people.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Let me give you some clarity with facts. 1. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were mythological archetypes. The story of Abraham, it was copied from older Mesopotamian myths. Abraham wasn't a confirmed historical figure. He's an ideological character, not a documented ancestor. No archaeology confirms their existence. No tomb, no bones, no birth records, nothing outside the Bible confirms these men ever lived. So how are you tracing your DNA to characters who don't even have historical proof? 2. Israel was a concept before it was a nation. The earliest mention of Israel is on the Merneptah Stele, dated to around 1200 BCE, and it referred to a group of people, not a country or tribe. The idea of 12 tribes was constructed centuries later to give a fractured people a narrative of unity and divine identity. So when you say, I descend from the tribe of Judah, where's the genetic proof? There isn't any. Just a claim repeated enough times to sound like truth. 3. Black people love to be everyone except themselves. We've been told for so long that Africa was cursed, that our original traditions were pagan, that our ancestors were primitive. So instead of embracing our real roots, we adopt a Hebrew identity from a foreign book written by people who don't even claim us. Let's be honest. You're quoting a book that says your people were cursed, enslaved, and punished, and then you turn around and wear that curse like it's a crown. 4. Let me give you a list of your lineage that doesn't exist. Abraham, myth. Isaac, myth. Jacob, no record. Moses, not found in any Egyptian records. David and Solomon, still debated by archaeologists. Jesus' genealogy contradicts itself in Matthew and Luke. 12 tribes, symbolic, not scientifically traceable. You keep saying lineage like it's provable fact, but let's be real. You can't trace your roots through a storybook. 5. What you do have. You have real African bloodlines. You have actual ancestral names and traditions. You have pre-colonial spirituality that predates the Bible by thousands of years. You have the power of truth if you choose to embrace it. But instead, you're walking around in fringes, quoting curses, and fighting for a seat at a table you were never even invited to. Final thought. You're not a lost tribe. You're a stolen people. But reclaiming your truth doesn't mean clinging to someone else's story. You don't need to be Hebrew to be chosen. You already were, by blood, by spirit, by origin. But to see that, you gotta let the mythology go and pick up your real roots.
And just picking this bullshit apart. So here it is. They're coming with the whole narrative of you know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That the seed line of the chosen, all right, is fake. But then you have nobody questioning the small hats, all right, for their claim to be of that lineage. So it just goes to show you that hey Jake, as long as you got Jake calling themselves, the true, Jews or Israelites or whatnot, it could be anybody on the earth, but so-called Black, Latino, Native Americans, man. You know, because the moment Jake began to call upon Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, all right, and put back on the truth of being Hebrew Israelites, that's when this thing became a true problem to those people over there in the land of Israel, man. Because now their narrative, which was never questioned the whole time of leading up until me even coming into that land, all right. Nobody say anything dealing with that with them. Nobody questioned how are they able to call themselves these same, the same people of this lineage, man. You know, because according to the scriptures, I quoted it earlier. I might as well grab it. The scriptures talk about it was going to be a nation of impostors on the earth, right? All right, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 9. It says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty. Okay, because we know, us being over here in the land of Israel, in the land of Babylon the Great, okay, and we are the most impoverished nation, all right, on the planet, okay, because of what we have suffered because of the curses, and we wear that as a sign to let us know that we are the people of the book, because the curses that the Lord gave us, all right, was a sign to let us know who we are in the flesh, man. The scriptures let us know. Before I grab that, let me get the curses will be an indicator to who the Israelites are in today's time, man. All right, this is Deuteronomy 28, and I start at verse 45. All right, it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Now, what other people on the planet goes through the curses that we read about here in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verses 15 on down to the last verse, man? All right. These curses don't fit the small hats, man. All right. Because when you look at what they got going on, man, they're not a people living under a curse, man. They're the most wealthiest people on the planet. All right. Here it is. They're claiming to be the chosen people, and yet all the prophecies that fit what the world would be like when the chosen people are in the land, that's not the case. All right. The scriptures tell you that the Israelites will be in a low state until Yahweh Shai Hamashiach will return and redeem us out of this curse, man. Okay, because when you read the last verse, jumping down to verse 68, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Now, a good point dealing with, it says the Lord is going to bring us into Egypt. All right, Egypt and Israel, okay, are in close proximity to where you wouldn't need a ship to get to Egypt. All right, and what we see now, as far as what they call the so-called Middle East now, all right, Esau has that land split up by that man-made a waterway, which is known as the Suez Canal. All right, so where now it's like I said, it's a waterway to now you can get on boats there, but you didn't need a boat back in the ancient maps to look at how to get from Egypt to Israel, man. That was walking distance, man. All right. So what's the Egypt is talking about here, man? It is Babylon the Great, because in Revelation, grab it. Matter of fact, I'll just get it out the sword quicker. Revelation 11 and verse 8. It says, in their dead bodies, the dead bodies is being the Israelites, because like I mentioned earlier in Proverbs 21 and 16, all right, Israel became in that dead state once they wandered out the way of understanding and lost their heritage. All right. So when we stop serving the Lord and stop keeping the laws, statutes and commandments, and started to serve other gods, we essentially became dead to the Lord, man. Okay. It says, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. All right. So Babylon the Great, this land over here, the land of America, is also known as spiritual Egypt. And the biggest indicator that you can have to put that, those pieces together, is take out your $1 bill and turn it to the back, and you'll see the all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid, which lets you know this is Egypt. Okay, when you look at the parallels between ancient Egypt and America, they fit very well. Okay, Memphis, all right, that was a capital in Egypt. Okay, you see the pyramids over here, man. All right, here in Central America. All right, you see the idols of Egypt being worshipped today, man. Okay, so these are all spiritual indicators that let us know that we're here in Egypt again, all over again, man. And another word for Egypt is bondage. Okay, Mizraim. All right, this is the place of bondage for the Israelites, just like how you read about in Exodus, man. All right, we're in Egypt all over again, serving bondage, man. All right, it says, and we already know how this place is spiritual Sodom, but it says, well, also our Lord was crucified, because here Esau crucifies Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai every day. All right, to where you have all this unbelief being spread because nobody takes Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai serious anymore, man. All right, God is so-called, JC, all right, is a mockery in today's time because nobody believes in the Lord. All right, it's a lot of unbelief here because Esau has mystified the scriptures, which is why you're hearing that word being thrown around a lot more now, to where this is a no people trying to claim a mystical heritage, but all of a sudden people forget that it's another group of people on the earth claiming the same heritage, and yet we're the ones clinging to lies, though, man. Make it make sense, man. All right. So going back, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 68, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And nobody can prove how this prophecy fits those small hats, because those small hats never went into slavery on ships. They was never sold on auction blocks as bondmen and bondwomen. All right, their only claim to some type of adversity is that lie that happened over in Frankfurt, Germany, with the Holocaust, man. All right, which when you do the research, that wasn't even the correct story, because those quote unquote concentration camps were nothing more than a resort, for those small hats, because a lot of them, had lice and all that bullshit. All right, they were living it up over there, man, in those quote unquote camps. There wasn't no goddamn gas chambers, and then when you do the math, they said it was what 10 million Jews that got killed, and there wasn't even that many around at that time, man. So nothing about that story makes sense. And the biggest thing that puts a pin in that is that the Holocaust is not in prophecy. But you can talk about the so-called Native American Holocaust, or it's like a Holocaust, which is called the Trail of Tears. You could talk about the transatlantic slave trade, of how you had the Southern Kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, as well as various Northern Kingdom tribes that was sprinkled amongst us, how they were taken from one side of the earth to another side of the earth in ships stacked upon each other. And even when you look at the records for those ships, those slaves had Hebrew names. And who financed the ships? Those same small hats that claiming to be us, man. So too many things stick out that prove that something's not right with the story. All right. And people are becoming more and more aware of that. This is the reason why you so-called Black, Latino, Native Americans cannot overcome, because we're cursed as a people. And the only one that can redeem us from that curse is Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, man. Point blank, period. Those small hats don't even believe in the Messiah, man. Here it is, you hear them talking about building, the third temple. They're talking about sacrificing red heifers and all that. None of that is biblical. That's not end time prophecy. That's not even prophecy. Because number one, we won't even do animal sacrifice no more, because Yahweh Shai was the sacrifice, man. Okay. So hey, it said 99% of those small hats don't even believe, in the Messiah, man. So it's cuts after cuts after cuts, man. All right, but let's go back to Revelation 2 and 9. It says, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, synagogue being the chief house of Satan. And those are those small hats, man. Hey, it's so much so that even when you go into, they don't even call themselves Israelites. They call themselves Israelis. All right. Because they can't bind themselves to the same lineage of the Israelites, man. All right. When you go on Edamon online dealing with that word Israeli, they'll even tell you. All right. It says citizen of the state of Israel. Where in the scriptures does it talk about the state of Israel? Okay. It talks about the nation of Israel, all right, which is going to have that whole holy land. They don't even possess the whole holy land, man. All right, when you look up, the Fertile Crescent, it's way bigger than what they're trying to get now. They just have they only have a portion of the holy land, man. Okay, so there's no such thing as a state of Israel, man. And we're a nation. Okay, continuing on, it says it distinguishes the citizens of the modern state from the ancient people who had been known in English since the 14th century as Israelites, man. All right, so it says it's a clear distinction between who the Israelis are and the Israelites, man. All right, the Israelis are imposters. All right, they're not the true chosen people of the Lord. All right, and the main way that we know that is because the prophecies that will be happening once the chosen people are back in that land. And what's the main prophecy that we can prove to show you that they're not those people? All right, this is Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Right. So it says when the righteous are in authority, the people will rejoice, man. And if you look at the world right now, are the people in a state of rejoicing? Hell no. All right. It's mourning all over the world. This is why you're seeing protests. This is why you're seeing all type of you know turmoil and uprising taking place, because the wicked are ruling, man. You know. And another one to prove that they're not the people. Where we at? Micah chapter 4 and 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that in the mountain of the house of the Lord, all right, which is the governing body, all right, the elect, the 144,000, all right, it says, but in the last days it shall come to pass that in the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and all people shall flow into it. So if the Israelites are back in the power seat, it said that, hey, we will be on top, and all the nations will be coming unto us to receive that wisdom, knowledge, understanding. All right, to know, all right, how to serve the Lord. Okay, to know of our ways. And you see anybody seeking out, any information from those small hats? Hell no, because they ain't got it. Okay. It says, and many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of the power of Jacob and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And you're not seeing that. All right. It said that the people will be flowing into the house of Israel. People are protesting and calling for those small hats to be killed. That doesn't fit prophecy, man. You know, these people are fed up with them Amalekites over there, man. All right. So much so that they're ready to shoot missiles on that land. All right, and America, because America is a subsidiary of Israel, man. All right. It says, and he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar, and they shall beat their swords in the plowshare and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And that's the main cut to prove to you that those people are not the true Israelites, man. Okay, because it says when the Israelites get into that land, there's not going to be war anymore. The moment those small hats got over in that land after those different, Elias, the night of the when after they got the Balfour Declaration to let them get into that land, the night they got in there, bombs went off, man, and there's been turmoil ever since, man. Okay, so much so that it was a statement made by the at the point of time president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and he pretty much said there will never be peace in the Middle East because the Jews left black and came back white. So everybody except these bonehead niggas over here in America are totally aware that those people over there are not the true people. All these different videos that Esau has been trying to hide throughout the years of these different heathen nations, all right, pleading with you so-called blacks over here in America to wake up. All right. Hey, we did lessons a few years back to where you had Russia, all right. There was a choir that was singing about nuking America, and one of the lyrics in that song was "Why the blacks sleep." All right, because they know that the so-called Negroes are God's chosen people. Even Hitler knew. Okay, hey, during the Olympics, he had even said that, man, that pretty much in so many words, America was gonna win because they had God's chosen people. So all the evidence is there, but you got these pawns and these sellouts trying to sow discord and disbelief, into the people's minds, man. But it's not gonna work because we're too far in this thing now to where the spirit of the Lord is consuming this place, man. All right. So if you still got that spirit of unbelief, then hey, that shows you the Lord ain't dealing with you. All right. This is Romans chapter 3:3. For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh without effect? God forbid. So no matter what tactics and niggas that you pay off, nothing's gonna sway the elect from staying in his knowledge, man. Because hey, the Lord said it. Okay, the elect will not be taken out of his hands. So we're not budging. We know we got the truth. So that song from Lil Duval, we ain't going back and forth with you niggas about this, man. We got the truth. So if you reject it, hey, like it says, man, Elder I believe it was Elder Yaquab said, all right, if a nigga can't get it, we moving on, but we're gonna rebuke the shit out of you and rebuke that incredulous spirit, so that the elect isn't taken by that bullshit, man. Okay. So your unbelief isn't gonna stop prophecy from happening. And that's what we're seeing. This is why that uneasiness and that shakiness is beginning to come on you people, because on one hand, you hate this knowledge so much to where you don't want it to be true, but then on the other hand, prophecy is unfolding and things are taking place to where you can't deny the things that we're saying from being true. So you're like a rock, was it how's that word? Stuck between a rock and a hard place, man. All right, and that's fine, because if you're going to be on the fence, in the time of judgment, the Lord is just going to destroy you, because Hey, do you not realize that doubt, that's a sin, okay? Because you're downplaying the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. That's what you niggas are doing. All right. So it says, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua without effect? God forbid, yea, let the Most High be true and every man a liar, as it is written, excuse me, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged." And that's the spirit the Lord is going to put on us in that time when we're finally met head on. Okay, we're going to be justified in our sayings, because as we're seeing now, we're being justified as we speak, because prophecy is taking place and we're found to be true in our words, which is really Yahweh Hashem Yahushua's words, because he put those words in our mouth. Okay, so the things that we're speaking of, all right, is just further credence to let us know that we have the truth. So to hell with you people out here, man. You can't make us stop believing just because your bitch ass wasn't given the spirit of faith, man. All right. Because here it is, like you said, that last video and the Judge Joe Brown video, they kept pushing the notion like this book is not real. The people in this book, these are just fairy tale. No, these are ancestral, lines that we have to trace our history back to, because it's somebody in the earth that descends from these people, and we highly believe through faith that that's us, and we don't need evidence from this world, okay? Because like I said, the curses, all right, were a sign the Lord left for us to see that we are the people here in this flesh. But then the Lord gave us his spirit, all right, which is the understanding to let us know through our faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, or our faith in Yahushua, that we gotta be the people. Because prophecy states in the last days the Lord was gonna have his people stand upon their feet as he's calling back his army unto them, man. You know, hey, it said he's bringing all, the minds of his elect under the obedience of a Mashiach, man. So that spiritual awakening and movement is happening to his elect. We see that, okay? Because what other religion, what other philosophy or belief system has Jake waking up all over the world, all right, brothers that have never met personally, all right, connecting and saying the same thing through the spirit, man. Okay, we know this is the truth. We have 100% faith to know that this is the truth, man. All right, this is Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And like I said, we don't need, a DNA lineage. All right, we don't need, we have the history. Okay, we've done the research. We've seen, things like that. But we don't bank off that. What we bank off is the Holy Spirit, which has revealed these things to us to prove to us that we got to be those people. Okay, it says Ephesians 2:8, for by grace are ye saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It is the gift of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. So ultimately, if you don't have faith, it's because the Lord didn't gift you with it, and you don't have faith. You're not going to believe in this thing, man. All right. Hey, the devil is gonna, is gonna come and he's gonna devour you, man. Okay. Because you're gonna come across these different, videos of these different, fallouts and scoffers, and it's gonna be something that's said that's gonna sway you if you're not truly rooted upon the rock, which is Yahweh Shai, man. All right. So this is why at the end of the day, we're set out here, to pretty much be a defense to the gospel, to combat against that spirit of unbelief, man. All right. Ephesians Salaki. Ezekiel chapter 3 and 4. And he said unto me, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel and speak with my words unto them. Because like I said, everything that we're saying, these are not of our own, own thoughts. These are the words that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua put inside of our mouth to speak to our people with, man. It says, for thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language, But to the house of Israel, not too many people of a strange speech and of an hard language, whose words thou canst not understand. Surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto me. And this is why here it is, you Jakes are so, willing to give your blessing to these other nations. If these other nations heard what we're saying, and if salvation was truly open unto them, they would take it. It's only these stupid niggas out here that truly will hear that salvation is only for you, that the God of the Bible is sending his son back to deliver your people, the same people that have been oppressed and downtrodden for generations. When you hear that we have a hope coming for us to deliver us out of this situation, these are the same people that are getting mad at that, man. It shows you how destroyed our people are, man. Okay? If these heathen will jump at that chance, man. All right, verse 7. But the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me, for all the house of Israel are imputed and hard-hearted. And these are the same niggas that have been against Yahweh Shem Yahushua, going all the way back to when Moses, led us out of Egypt, to when we was in the wilderness, all the way up until the time of Yahweh when they were pretty much, scoffing and talking shit to the point they wanted to put Yahweh to death, man. Okay, they weren't given the true, spirit to receive these words. They, like the brother said, damn, it died on me. Slapped me. GMS Taza Doc Da Bon Yahweh 144 K Hebrews 4:12. He's used the word mysteries. All right, G 3466 Mysterion. It says generally mysteries, religious secrets confided only to the initiated and not to ordinary mortals. And this is this is why with the distinction that let us know, was that Galatians 6:16? Read that real quick. Oh, that's a good one too. But I was in Romans 9. I'll grab that one, then I'll grab this one. Romans 9. So I can bear with me. Romans 9:8. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children. It's like that's not it. That was it. Not all Israel. Salakia. This is Romans chapter 9 and 6. Not as though the word of Yahweh Shem Yahushua have taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. Okay, so the majority of 2/3, I say majority, all the 2/3, okay, those who the Lord will consider ordinary mortals. All right, they weren't given access unto the mysteries, which is really, esoteric knowledge. All right, going into that word esoteric real quick, just for edification purposes. All right. Esoteric means a secret intended to be communicated only to the initiated. Okay. Belonging to an inner circle. So this wisdom, knowledge, understanding was only given unto the Lord's elect. All right. That's why the majority of Israel that's hearing this word, they're rejecting it because it wasn't, given unto them. All right. Like we read earlier, that faith that we have wasn't given to everybody, man. All right, that faith was a gift that was only given unto the elect. Okay, this is why this whole thing, as you hear brothers continually say, all right, is only for the elect. Okay, so like I said, it's generally mysteries, religious secrets confided only to the initiated ones and not to ordinary mortals of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, the secret counsels that which govern the Most High in dealing with the righteous which are hidden from ungodly and wicked men, but plain to the godly. And this is what has been shown. All right, scriptures tell you wisdom cannot dwell in a malicious soul, and 2/3 of Jake keep saying majority, no, 2/3, all the 2/3 of Jake are wicked. All right, because they either, like I said, they sold out, they love this world. All right, they're idol worshippers, they're witches, they're warlocks. All right, they're you know atheists, whatever the case may be. It's a better word, but I couldn't think of it. They are, enemies of the cross, man. All right, they're enemies of Yahweh Shem Shah. So therefore, the Lord rejected them from getting this knowledge, man. That's why if you see a lot of Jake, that call themselves coming into the knowledge, but then they quit. All right, it's because they weren't of the elect. All right, Galatians 6:16, and as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them and mercy upon the Israel of God, the elect, the Israel of the Most High, the ones that were initiated into being accepted to hold these secrets from Yahweh Shem Shah, all right, the wisdom from on high, man. Because what you see the elect doing with this knowledge is pretty much, prefacing of what we're going to have when we get the power to implement these law, statute, commandments into the earth, man. We're reshaping the world through prophesying, man. But when we actually get the power to implement what it is that we're teaching, as we read in Micah the 4th chapter, man, hey, we're going to govern the word of the world by the word of Yahweh by Shem Shah. So as it says in Micah, it's like in 2 Peter the 3rd chapter, we look for a world which dwelleth in righteousness, and we're going to bring that world into fruition once we are, delivered out of this wicked kingdom. All right, beamed up in those chariots, given new bodies, and then once we come down off them ships, once the nuclear destruction is overpassed, we're gonna go through the earth, clean it up, and bringing the earth back into that restored paradise known as the Garden of Eden, because that's talking about the whole world really in a nutshell, man. All right, Eden or Idon is paradise, and that's essentially what the world was made to be, a paradise, man. But as we see under the rule of the wicked, Esau has turned paradise into prison. That's why everybody's mourning, man, because we can't enjoy the earth which was made to be inhabited and enjoyed, man. Okay, these fucking devils, man, hey, they are not fit to rule, man. Okay, and if you can't see that, you're part of the problem at the end of the day, man. You know, we're being called out as being a problem because we're addressing the root issue of the matter, and the root, issue is that these devils need to be taken off the power seat, and the world really can't be in peace until these devils are eradicated. All right, Obadiah 1:18. You know, the world can't have peace until these Edomites are all done away with, man. That's just the truth of the matter, man. All right. And Yahweh Shem Shah, once he returns, is going to help usher that in. Okay. Because Esau is slated after his kingdom is destroyed to go into captivity along with the other nations for 1,000 years to build up the kingdom of heaven. And then once them 1,000 years are up, all right, it's barbecue time, man. All right. They're going into that pit, and there's going to be no more Edomites, man. Okay. And once we get the kingdom, you won't even remember that was an Edomite ruler, man. That's going to be a fairy tale. That's going to be a nightmare that we're going to tell our children, man. Okay. So at the end of the day, man, rejoice if you have this truth, man. Okay. Blessed are your eyes for they see, blessed are your ears for they hear, man. Because we have a precious treasure. Okay. I'm gonna end it with this. 1 Peter 1:6. Wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, you are in heaviness through manifold temptations, because that spirit of incredulity is being pushed even heavier now, man. So these demons are fucking with us more and more. Okay, so we got to stay strong in the spirit of the Lord, man. Okay, keep our faith strong, man. This is why brothers need to be praying, fasting, and as we continue to fight the world, man. Okay, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. This is why, hey, when we watch these videos of these Jakes that then gave up and went back into the world, all right, that's number one, all right, putting fear in us not to be like unto them, all right, Lord willing, the Lord keep the spirit on us, to continue to, to the end, but also too, just to show how much closer we are because you're seeing people at the finish line, dropping out the race, man. Okay, we see everything showing us that Yahweh Shai is almost here. So that makes us go even harder to, finish this race out strong, man. Hey, we got to run through the tape at the end of the day, man. Okay, so don't let the people's opinion sway you from this truth. You're gonna take L's, man. All right, you're gonna lose. We're ultimately gonna lose everything because when this devil finally makes his move against us, we're gonna be, a target number one, man. Hey, be prepared to have the whole world come against you. But guess what? What we lose on this side, we gain in Hamashiach, man. And we're looking to gain eternal life, man. Okay, so just continue to stay strong and keep your faith strong, man. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'm gonna end it right here. I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect. Until next time, I say shalom.